Stephan and Sonya, thank you so much for your time today. Hey, thank you for that wonderful documentary. I am a big wrestling nerd, and I think as I get older, I'm more intrigued by more of these like personal stories. I mean, like, let's be real. I love the product. I love the drama. I always call them soap operas for men, but they're like for everyone. um, but getting to know where some of these wrestlers come from or where they end up, to me, is just as captivating because it's raw, it's real. What led you both to putting this together?
I think for me, one of the big, like I'm a huge wrestling fan and I always have been. One of the things I asked when me and Steph first started talking about making the movie was I wanted to make this, like I remember being like, I want to take this seriously. Like no matter what we do, wrestling has the same prestige as Olympic level sport. So that's how I want to treat it. And so it was something that was very important to me because I love wrestling documentaries, but a lot of them follow the same formula, and a lot of them never really dig deeper beyond like the surface level of the business, basically. And I can call it the business because we were Death Tour alums. But anyway, it was just like I really wanted people always uh have told the jokes about the death tour about like a pig peeing on Tony's head, that sort of thing. We've all heard the stories. And basically what I wanted to do with this doc was I want to know why. Because it's really hard to wrestle, especially like not just on the death tour, but in general. Like the career is very difficult. And so it was one of my goals to answer like why do people do this? Why do people put themselves through such pain? And like why do they do it if they love like why do they love it so much? And so that was basically my reasoning for it. And I was really glad to work with Steph on it.
And for me, what really attracted me to it was, I didn't come from a wrestling background as a fan or anything, but upon kind of coming across this tour and then researching the project and going behind, going backstage to a number of kind of indie shows close to me, was just it was really in the dressing room. I was like not as interested, like what happened on stage interested me very little. It was what was going on behind the curtains, the passion. It was like the diversity of people who came together there, and you talked to each person you spoke to had an incredible story and had an incredible journey, just kind of getting to where they were today, tonight, this match. And from so many different walks of life, but each of them, when they came together, in these dressing rooms, came with this passion that was just like, it's what they talked about. They lived it, they breathed it. It was their sole focus. I've been in hockey dressing rooms. I've been in the circus. I've been in I've been behind the stages, and both in sports and in performing arts, but there was something special going on here. Like these wrestlers, it was their just like absolute sole focus and passion in life, and so that really spoke to me, and that's what I wanted to. I was just fascinated by what I saw, and I wanted to share that because yeah, it was inspiring.
Now, obviously, it's very difficult on the wrestlers. It's an insane tour that they go on. What was it like for you guys as filmmakers to have to go on this tour along with them? Because I mean, even if yes, you're not wrestling, but you're still working. You still got to get the shots. You still got to be outdoors. You still got to be on that frozen tundra. What what was the experience of going on that tour with them like for you guys personally?
I hope Steph doesn't get mad when I say this, but I remember he didn't tell me that he had only done the pre-winter road part of the tour before I came on, because I thought he did the whole thing before I came on. And then like when we were in Cross Lake, he said something like, "Man, I'm excited to get on the winter road for the first time." And I'm like, "What?" And so I was freaking out because I was like, so we were both doing it for the first time, like the full thing. And it wasn't as difficult for me just because like going without showers and like food costing like hundreds of dollars and all that stuff. It was the environment I had grown up in, like that type of like God's River was a lot like my grandma's reserve growing up. So it wasn't easy, but I had learned to live with it when I was a child. The hardest part was probably for me at least was when we were filming in Inuvik and I had to carry like in Inuvik Northwest Territories before the tour started. I had to carry a generator through the snow. That was not fun. so I was just like, I was like, I'm the director. Why am I doing this and stuff? And so yeah, but on the tour itself, I think running out of Coke Zero in the middle of the trip, that was the hardest part for me. Like on a physical level, emotionally, like it was the lack of sleep was also a big one.
For me, it was no, it was so much fun. I mean, it was hard, but it was professionally the most fun I ever had for sure. I mean, we were like a small team of all like very close friends and very talented too. And so we were a pretty well-oiled machine. Um, and where we were was just it was just incredibly rich. So we all had I think a lot of fun filming it. But you know, it was yeah, it was like 15 days or 14 days straight of like you said, Manny, we're not wrestling, but we're following the wrestling, and then we're following the end of the wrestling, and then we got to do all the data. But I mean, our director of photography, Van, had to do all the data wrangling, and then we're resetting all the batteries and unpacking and cooking and sleeping kind of. And then the next morning, we want to catch the load up, but we have to be loaded up before we can film the load up. So we got to be up, and so yeah, there's by the end, it was keeping motivation and energy, kind of at the level it needed to be while, still feeding ourselves. By the end, we'd bought like a large box of MREs, like the army food. You just add boiling water and shake it. And at the first, it was like, it's terrible. We bought all this like cheese and crackers, and by the end, even just like boiling water for the MREs was almost too much. So yeah, it was. It was a tough road. It was fun, but it was yeah, physically, and it was exhausting.
What kind of relationship were you guys able to establish with the wrestlers? Because I mean, you guys did such a good job, especially my highlight of the film, despite liking all of the characters in it. Sage's story, the matriarch, and just the way you guys depicted her and her story, and some of the shots that were chosen, especially post match, just to show how much of an impact she was having on the community, but then also getting to know her story and where she came from. You guys obviously had to get to know them pretty well during this time. Tell me about building these relationships with these people behind the characters.
Well, it was we I mean, you mentioned Sage. She's an incredibly special person, and so she's very open and very generous and very kind. So, hitting it off with Sage was not much of a challenge. But, I think the fact that we were there from start to finish, we're all it's like a road trip, inevitably everyone kind of comes together. And it didn't take long. We were there with them. We were sleeping on the floors of the gym next to them. We were peeing on the side of the ice road with them. Like we were just in it with them. So it was, we all kind of bonded pretty quickly. And so that was not a challenge, but mostly because they're all very outgoing, friendly people. I mean, I think you kind of have to be to a degree in this business. So and then we had Sonya and me, we were dividing the work. So while some of us were shooting, the others were getting to know the others. We had a lot of time on the road where we were just driving and driving and driving, and so we were rotating in and out of cars and kind of you end up spending a lot of downtime like not filming, talking to them, getting to know them, bored or listening to music. And so it was pretty easy to kind of connect with all these guys who were total sweethearts.
Yeah, I was surprised that I became close to Sean specifically, and like Sarah as well, because Sarah didn't speak English very well. Well, she says not very well, but she was like very passable. Like I think she was just really doubtful of her ability, especially when it came to wrestling, even though like ultimately like I remember I translated into French something I wanted to tell her about how I thought that wrestlers have to have three things to be the greatest, and no wrestler has all three. And it was like she had all three. Like she had the look, she had the physicality, and she had the talent to be a wrestler. And I was like, you like easily, if you like, you could be Becky Lynch basically, I told her. And so it was fun just to get to know them as people, and like all like it felt we became friends with all of these guys too, just because um I feel like wrestling is a lot like that, where once you show respect for the business, they like embrace you. And like it was really cool to have that happen, especially with like people like some of the legends we've met, like being brought into that community, because I know that there's a lot of worry that like you're gonna poke fun at the business and like you're gonna make fun of it, and that was never our intention. We always wanted to look at it like, especially with me, like really focusing on like the story firsthand, and then like the drama afterwards, if that makes sense. And so like I think Steph brought Sarah on and I brought Sage on because we were randomly like just trying to find people that like had really interesting stories, and then we ended up becoming friends with Sage and Sarah and like all the other people on the tour. And I think it was that friendship that ultimately let us like well, not that that was the intention, but like let them be open with us too, just because we were open with them.
I think some of the shots that really impacted me, there's a couple of times with the wrestlers, really reminded me of some of the shots of like Batman v Superman when the community is like gathering around him after the fires. I don't know if you guys remember that scene. I saw that a couple of times, and it just impressed me at how much of an impact uh, these people coming to the communities had, and then you guys explaining this is probably all they're going to have all year, or this is the only time they'll be able to look up to somebody like in person, as far as like superheroes or characters, which that's how I grew up with luchadores being more like superheroes. Can you tell me about going into communities, meeting these people, and seeing their reactions to your traveling group, to the wrestling, and what it meant to them?
I mean, like, what was, I mean, this tour has been going to these communities for over 50 years now. So what became pretty clear, quickly was that generations have been watching Tony's tours come to town, and they've, the communities themselves, one thing that I, hadn't, I'd kind of realized was, early on for a lot of these wrestlers, one of the hardest parts is learning how to work and engage with an audience, right? And so, when you go up there, you've got a great audience who give, they take. It's a great exchange, and it's a great place to really kind of cut your teeth and learn like that aspect of the business. I mean, and again, I'm not, I don't know much about I'm not a wrestler myself, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that that's an important part of it. And so in a way, for generations, like these wrestlers or these fans have like kind of helped also shape the careers of some of these big wrestling greats, maybe to some degree. And so, it was really cool because it was this, give and take with the wrestlers in the communities when they came to these towns. It did a lot of good for, the kids were super entertained and loved that a lot of these wrestlers come year after year to see them. And for some of these wrestlers, it's like their favorite part of the year to come back here, and the kids love it that, I know Sage is going back this year if she can, and, Sean's been coming for 13 years. Wrestlers, there's a number of wrestlers and tour alumni who go back year after year, like Bobby if they can. So that means a lot to the communities, but it also means a ton, the connection that the wrestlers have with the crowd is very significant to them as well, and therapeutic, as you saw for many of them.
Yeah, and I think the way Indigenous people are looked at in Canadian society is often how wrestling is looked down on. Like as an Indigenous person, I like dealing with racism and stuff. It was a lot of the wrestlers that went on the tour for the first time, that was their first time on an Indigenous reservation. That was their first time encountering Indigenous people on the whole, basically. And so it was something I was hoping we could do in the film, showing how similar like people are mistreated in Indigenous communities compared to how people are mistreated in the professional wrestling community, in terms of like, I know it's like simplifying the relationship, but it was like just cool to see like these two communities combining together, because there's a lot of tragedy in professional wrestling. I was telling Steph, like in Chris Jericho's book, the thank yous he gives of various wrestlers, 80% of them are gone now. And so like there's a lot of tragedy in pro wrestling, and I think I'm not sure if that's what draws Indigenous crowds to it. I think our our focus on storytelling has always been our draw to wrestling, but it was something to see because I really loved how this like kick down, this look down upon kick down pseudo sport meant so much to like my community specifically, just because it let us be heroes. Like Sage has a moment where she basically like there's these girl like we it's not shown in the film, but we were in God's River for 3 nights and they performed 3 nights in a row, I believe, or was it two? I can't remember exactly, but each night more and more girls were coming to the event just to see Sage, and it was really overwhelming to me because like they were freaking out. Girls came all 3 nights just to see her. Well, and possibly Bobby too, because Bobby was kind of a heartthrob up there. But like it was just cool to see how much it meant, like how much this one little thing of having an Indigenous hero be in that ring meant to all these little kids that were there. Because like for a long time, like there maybe Wavell was the only Indigenous person that went up there, and this tour we had three, and so it was just really cool to be a part of that.
And then you mentioned Chris Jericho. He's an executive producer on the project. What kind of insight, what kind of help did he lend into really putting that focus on certain parts of the tour? Because obviously it's something that he had done before. It's that's he's familiar with because of so many of his colleagues also have gone through it. What was his role in polishing the film?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, he was especially in post production. You know, we were able to lean on him for like an expert. You know, again, I'm not, I don't know much about the business, and our editor too. You know, this was a new universe for all of us, so it was really great to have someone who could like who could also help us like set the tone in certain places and like not make it too big or too small, or there's little details he picked up on that were like so pro wrestling that we were able to try to bring up or bring down. So yeah, it was and obviously he helped us line up some amazing interviews, some of which we didn't even end up making the film. But no, it was just great to have an expert, a qualified expert, I guess you could say, kind of help us and through post production.
Yeah, and it was just cool to see his name in the email chains all the time. So I was like, as a wrestling fan who grew up like as a huge fan of him, every time I get the notification on my phone that he had said something, I'd be like, just like scrolling through it. So it was a big mark out moment for me.
I feel that because yesterday when I talked to him for a few minutes, I was like, I'm really sitting here talking to Chris Jericho. This is a lot of fun, but it was fun the context of being able to talk to him about it in a documentary like this, because I know it would mean a lot to him in to see where the beginnings of a lot of like him, like I was saying, and his colleagues started. Biggest question now, of course, as we're gonna wrap this up, are you a wrestling fan now?
Oh yeah.
Stefan,
Oh yeah.
are we watching? Are we watching Monday Night Raw? Are we watching Dynamite? Are we looking forward to the Royal Rumble?
I
What is
mean,
your stance with wrestling?
I'm getting there. I'm starting to follow a few on social media. I'm a huge fan of AEW. I'm getting into the product, and I'm definitely a fan of the craft. And yeah, no, I'm loving it. I'm starting to recognize a few of the names, and no, I'm converted for sure.
Sonia, I'm sure you just was just another feather in the cap for you as far as your wrestling knowledge and your wrestling fandom is just a great opportunity. I'm kind of jealous also because I can't imagine being able to do the same trip that you guys got to do.
Oh, it was pretty crazy. Like, just I've never been on like I've never traveled that much in a car. So that was pretty, and like the vans and like just the yeah, like and the ring being almost as old as the tour. And so it was just fun to be in like walk in the same footsteps as like Jericho and like Adam Copeland and like Don Callis and all these great guys. So it was just cool to be on that tour. And now it's like you're in a very cool alumni class, basically.
Very true. It's a lot. It's a journey that not many people get to take. Not a journey many people want to take.
Yes.
No.
Stefan, Sonia, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the documentary. I think my biggest takeaway from it was not only their journey, but also what it means to the community. And kind of like you're saying, Sonia, it's underrepresented genre, sometimes underrepresented people, just to kind of show that we're not very different. We're not so different. We just We just have different cultures.
Nailed it. Manny, thanks for the time, man.
Thank you both. It's so great to meet you, and I hope to see another wrestling film for you guys in the future.
Yes, I'm down.
Take care.